We are
Yay!
live, and I want to say live at 5 because we used to be on at 5, didn't we? We just weren't live at 1:30.
Well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, isn't it? Ukraine, maybe
Well,
5 o'clock. Happy
it'd be
5 o'clock,
5:30.
Ukrainians.
It'd be 5:30, wouldn't
Five.
it?
Oh, that's 5:30. Yes, yes. Well, I tell you where maybe you and I definitely shouldn't be today is the place we were talking about last week, Ortigia in Sicily. They just recorded the highest temperature in Europe ever. So I'm quite glad we're not in Italy just now.
8 degrees. I know. Scary stuff. We've got some problems with regards to climate. Let's not go there because this is a happy show today.
This is a very happy show. Yes. We are joined today by Greg Schwem. Greg Schwem is a Chicago, Illinois-based comedian, keynote speaker, and MC who has spent the past 25 years making the corporate world laugh at itself. We're not traveling the world providing laughs. Greg writes a bi-weekly, nationally syndicated humor column for the Chicago Tribune Syndicate and is the creator and host of the streaming TV show A Comedian Crashes Your Pad. Got to hear about that. He is the author of 2 books, Text Me If You're Breathing, Observations, Frustrations, and Life Lessons from a Low-Tech Dad, and The Road to Success Goes Through the Salad Bar. Please welcome on to the show, Greg Schwem.
Hello, Maria. Hi, James. Thank you so much. I should shorten that introduction. I feel like we don't have any time left.
I liked it. It's funny. I do like that title, Text Me If You're Breathing. That's really good. Brilliant. Greg, let's start and try to understand how somebody who has been very successful performing comedy in the comedy clubs, how do you move from that to a very different audience, really, when you're talking about corporate audience, because they're a little bit stiffer, I think. I don't know. How did you manage to do that?
Well, it kind of was a trial by error, not error, but it was, I sort of fell into it. When I was doing comedy clubs, I also became, as a way of making some extra money, I became a trade show presenter. If you've ever been on a trade show floor, sometimes you see people with headsets on and they do these live presentations about a product or a service that the company offers. And I was doing that, and I was realizing, number one, you had to get people entertained and laughing in a very short amount of time. And I was also trying to make them laugh about very dry subjects, as you alluded to. And the more I did it, and the more I realized that they were willing to laugh at this. I mean, and the clients that hired me were like, it's okay if you go off script, just make sure that you stay on point with our message at some point. But the more I realized that people were willing to laugh at this kind of stuff, the more I thought there's something here. There's something here. This group, this audience needs to laugh, likes to laugh at itself and what they do. So little by little, I started transitioning my act. I started writing material about things I was seeing on the trade show floor. I started putting that into my nightclub act. And I had people come up to me afterwards and say, would you mind coming down and doing those jokes at our company retreat? And next thing you know, I transitioned my entire career over to speaking in the corporate world. And that was, as you said, that was 25 years ago.
Fantastic. And I imagine that the stand-up training, where you said you have to really capture people's attention and get them laughing fast, that must have been excellent, because you must have to do, surely the attention span in a stand-up audience where there's, as you say in the US, liquor involved, it must be a tougher audience to get them to laugh straight away. Or are they easier if they're liquored up?
Well, actually, I kind of like the morning shows. I would rather that they're all amped up on coffee as opposed to vodka. But I think it's important. One of the things that I learned on the trade show floor is if you can get them laughing about something that's relevant to them, that's a great start. So one of the things that I do is I've always customized and I've always tried to incorporate material about the audience into, and the company or the association, into my presentation. And I start right off the top doing that because I want them to know that this is not a canned presentation, that I've done research, and that I'm in their world now. I'm in their world as an outsider, but that is what allows me to make them laugh at what they do. And I think audiences do tend to drop their guard a little bit. And they're like, you're right. Let's just have some fun. This guy he knows what we do. He knows what we're about. And, he's saying a lot of things that I've been thinking for many years. So let's go ahead and have some fun. And I think they really buy into that.
Now, Greg, you're over in Chicago, if I'm correct.
Correct.
And I'm here. I'm joining you today here from near Edinburgh in the UK. And in Edinburgh, every year, normally every summer, they have this big comedy festival. Like thousands of comedians from around the world come together. And I look at all those comedians, and they're all like fantastic comedians doing different kind of comedy, different type of humor. And then a client asks me sometimes, "Oh, James, we're looking like after your comedian, we'd love to bring a humorist speaker after you." And then I start thinking about like, okay, who could I recommend? And it tends to be like there's like 5 names.
Right.
So I'm interested, why do you feel there's maybe so few humor speakers who market themselves exclusively for the corporate market, this higher paying market?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the things is there's a lot of very funny comedians out there, but I think what a lot of humor speakers and comedians don't understand is that there is a huge difference between doing your show in a comedy club and doing your show in front of a corporate audience at, say, 9:30 in the morning. And I think a lot of you can't do it. You can't just bring your nightclub act in and expect it to be the same. Again, I think that these audiences, they want to laugh at themselves. They're not as much interested in your nightclub act. They want to laugh at themselves. And I think there's an awful lot of people who don't want to put that work in, or also don't think it's necessary. And I've seen comedians at corporate audiences that have not done well because of that, because they're not willing to put the work. They don't make that distinction. And for one reason or another, that's why I think the playing field is very narrow in terms of the number of people who do what we do. And obviously, if you're a buyer, if you're a corporation and you want humor, you want to make sure that nobody goes away upset. You want to make sure that the product that you're putting out is clean and is not offensive. And there's that narrows the herd even more.
So for let's imagine like for every 1,000 humorists or comedians, then you've maybe got like a small number, like say 50 or so. Mm-hmm. But then it feels like there's a small number because you speak internationally. You don't just speak in the in North American market. We were just talking earlier. You just said your last in-person one you did was in Vienna in Austria. And when I think of the Viennese, lovely people, great coffee shops, but not the like humor is not the first thing that comes to mind. So how do you then talk to that audience and make that audience laugh and engage that audience with a message?
Yeah.
And is it different from when you speak to your North American audience?
Yeah, I found out too, the Viennese, not real laugh riots. But one thing, when I do speak internationally, I rely heavily on imagery. I don't just talk. I also, my presentation, this is true everywhere. I think we've become a very visual audience. I think that in the corporate market, when you go to corporate events, you're used to seeing big screens and supporting imagery on there. People like to look at things and that's part of, we've been trained by looking at our phones all the time. We want sort of in your face type of imagery. So I have found, particularly with international, I kind of ramp up the visuals a little bit, because then that's universal in language. If I can pull screen grabs from a company's website, it doesn't matter what it's like. Here it is. You've seen this before. And then I can poke fun at that a little bit. I found that to be the case in, I did a show in Poznan, Poland a few years ago. And they actually said to me when I went up on stage, before they went, they're like, if nobody laughs, it's not you. Okay. Don't feel better. And I thought that's a great thing to hear, because now I can only go up from there.
Yeah. So Maria, when you've booked speakers, you've had clients come to you as speakers before, have you had to, in that scoping process that we actually had, someone talking about last week, 2 weeks ago, do you find that you have to kind of ask that question, probe into that question with the client?
About humor, whether they should be using humor.
Like where is the humor sitting?
Yeah, I do. And actually many clients would come to me specifically because I like comedy. I like to laugh. And so I do tend to know who the speakers are who insert humor in their speaking. And they would come to me specifically because they want a serious message, but they want it delivered with humor. So then you would have to talk about the difference, especially if it's an international audience. But Greg, you've got it absolutely right. The whole image, using images and ramping that up, is because that is universal language. And I wonder actually if that helped you over, I hate to use the P word, the pandemic word, but if that helped you over this period, because you are so switched on to visual, and also because you have your own TV show, did that help you transition your speaking business?
Absolutely. It did. And I think because I was working virtually, people say, boy, it must be hard to make people laugh virtually. Yeah, I will not disagree with you on that one. But it's a challenge that I relished. And it was really quite joyful to just know that you were making people laugh from wherever they were. I mean, when you're alive, obviously everybody's in the exact location. They're all staying in a very nice hotel and so forth. And all I could do was just imagine where some people were. They might had 2 kids trying to do virtual schoolwork in the next room. And they're like, I've got 30 minutes in here before I have to go back and check on them. And to be able to hear them laughing, I thought, well, I've really brought something to their day. But getting back to your point about using imagery and so forth, I think that was certainly in doing virtuals, being able to laugh at something other than just my head on screen is a real plus. And I think it makes my presentation very relatable to people.
Fantastic. And actually, we were talking earlier, and you've actually been to a live event recently, and the client, you said the client insisted that if anybody wanted to attend, they had to attend in person and not virtually. And I wanted to actually find out from you if you'd had to manage that hybrid situation where you've got a live audience and a virtual audience. How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you almost have to joke about it a little bit. First I have to start by addressing that, and just, like when the last one I did were a hybrid, like I did a joke and it didn't do very well with the live audience. I didn't get a real response, and I said, well, I'm just going to assume that everybody watching at home just thought that was hilarious. So, but
right, good.
But I feel to this company's point, they said, we don't want to offer a hybrid experience. We want everybody to be there because I think they realize the value of face-to-face communication. And I think they basically said, look, this is where our resources are going to go. We feel we've created a safe environment. Now we want you to be here and experience what we've spent a lot of time creating. And it really was amazing to see what people, how people responded to that. I think everybody was very nervous about it, but they also had, I don't know if you've seen, they did these bracelet things where a lot of companies are doing, where you wore a color coded bracelet. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, right.
Green meant you can hug me. Yellow meant kind of keep your distance, and red meant 6 feet apart. Now that was something else I could joke about, because I went up on stage and I said, this is great. I said, actually, and I know this works. I said, because my wife and I have been using this system for the last 25 years, but I keep trying to add another color. And I think it's very important that you laugh at what's going on right now. And that's why I think humor is so important, because I think, as you alluded to, people need to laugh now. COVID, not a funny subject at all. No. What has happened to us because of COVID, that's funny. There's an awful lot of humor in there. And I think people need to realize that. And I think that's why more and more companies are at least considering, even if they may end up saying, well, we don't have time for comedy or something, but at least they're considering that. And that really, I feel very proud that I feel like maybe I had something to do with that, and because I'm still doing what I'm doing.
Something I'm always intrigued with humorous speakers at corporate events, and I'm not sure how you you square the circle. I know a lot of comedians. I remember watching some stuff a while back about Ricky Gervais, and he was about the Golden Globes, which he obviously loves to offend powerful people, and he gets a joke, and the audience is in with the gag, so it's not, and Mel Gibson comes in with a gag and all that kind of stuff. But I'm wondering, like, the role of offense, of someone in the audience taking offense, even if you don't, like you mentioned that the wife joke there, that kind of wife line. Now, I mean, maybe someone might take offense, and the reason I can ask this question is, of all the speeches I've ever given, like totality, and I've given speeches like 35 countries now, and in places where you think people might take, like in Saudi Arabia and places with different kind of cultural kind of norms. The only place that someone has ever taken offense at something I've said so yeah, actually showing on screen, was in Florida. And it was because I showed a 16th century painting of a mermaid from Brazil. It was like a mermaid, this beautiful painting, 15th century Brazilian artist drew this mermaid, but the mermaid had nothing on top, so bare breasts. And so a woman came up to me, she said, I really enjoyed your speech, but I was actually offended by that photo, that picture you put up. And I was like, well, first, it's not a real person, it's a mermaid, but
it's a mermaid.
It did make me kind of think about the role of offense. And for us as speakers, like the not humorous speakers, we can kind of, it's almost in a way easier for us.
Yeah.
But for you, someone taking offense at what you said, even if you don't mean someone to take offense at it, that must be a hard one to square.
Well, you mentioned Ricky Gervais. One of my favorite quotes from Ricky Gervais is, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. That has become and he has said that it is very true. And he has been a champion for that kind of a thing. And I 100% agree with him. The bottom line is, if you're going to remove everything that might offend one person, then there's not going to be any humor in the world. And I've actually developed a whole new presentation about this. It's called "You Can't Cancel Laughter." And I'm going to be giving this presentation next month for the Society of Human Resource Managers, who I call the gatekeepers, because human resource managers sometimes are the people who decide whether or not I'm going to be, I'm appropriate for their group. I'm doing this show for other meeting planners. And I expect the president, I've already given it a few times. It can be a little controversial. It's been a little contentious at points, but I am very much sticking to my guns and saying that the positive benefits of humor far outweigh, especially now, any possible negative ramifications. And again, if you're going to go, companies have come back from the brink of destruction using humor. And I mentioned, I mean, I'm showing my age a little bit, but back in the mid 80s, Wendy's hamburgers here in the United States they came out with this campaign called "Where's the Beef," which was three elderly ladies. And you're familiar with this, James. Yeah. And as a result, this became a catchphrase, "Where's the beef?" Their sales went up 38%. But I sometimes feel that if that campaign had been launched today, somebody would go, I don't know. We're making fun. Do anybody here think we're making fun of the elderly? Anybody here think we're making fun of people who are hard of hearing? Maybe swipe left. Maybe we better not do that. And that's a shame. And that's what I want to convey to my audiences with this presentation is be careful. Be careful before you decide that one thing may offend one person. I mentioned, I'm not a big fan of quoting studies in my presentation, but I did come across one from Harvard not long ago. So it's true because it's from Harvard. And that is that a boss, people think, we're all about retaining employees and giving them happy work environments now. And 27% of employees say they're more likely to stay in their job, this is according to that study, if they thought their boss had a sense of humor, even if it wasn't a great sense of humor. That is one of the reasons that they stay in their jobs. And again, we're all about retaining the best employees now. Everybody's looking for workers. Everybody's feeling burned out. And I think that humor is one of the things that keeps people. Why not come to work where you feel that you can laugh and not be worried about how it might look? And that's not true everywhere by all means, but I think we have become very trigger happy, for lack of a better phrase, at just saying, I'm sorry, bare breasts, we can't hire this guy. Whereas again, if they just said, okay, first of all, it's on a fictional figure.
They're mermaid breasts.
Yeah, it's a mermaid. All right. And it really doesn't have anything to do with what you were talking about. I'm sure in your speech, you didn't say, hey, now's a great time to bring up partial nudity. So put the mermaid image.
Yeah, I just, because I'm not as confident as you about comedy probably on stage. So I just tend to make fun of myself. I think that's the safer, for me as a speaker, for me, that's not a comedian.
I do too.
The safest route.
And I agree. And I also think there is a very fine line. And I've said this, and this is, Maria, this goes back to your point about why, and both of you, about why so few comedians who started out in comedy clubs cannot make that transition to corporate. I think there's a very fine line between having fun with an audience and belittling them or mocking them or feeling like you're looking down on what they do. No matter how, no matter what my audience, no matter what they do for a living, even if it's something I don't understand at all, or think what I would never possibly use this product. What I have to remember is that this is their life's work. They come to work every day, or they get up and they go into their home office and they're passionate about what they do. And it's very important that what I say aligns with that. The minute you start talking down to a corporate audience, or if they feel you're talking down to them, you're never going to recover from that. And again, I've seen a lot of very funny comedians crash and burn at corporate events because they've never, ever figured that out.
So talking about crashing,
isn't it?
Tell us about a comedian crashes your pad.
Oh, yes.
What a link. What a link. I'm sorry. I have to applaud that link.
That was a good segue, wasn't it? Yeah. and that was not set up, everybody watching. No, I mean, we all, everybody who travels, I think some people, we all have our own ways of what we do in our downtime. I got very fascinated with the home sharing business. I'm a people person. I like to talk to people. I don't sit in my hotel room. I don't think anything's funny sitting in a hotel room. So I thought, well, as long as I'm in all of these great locations, why don't I take a day and stay with somebody who I found on a home share property, who strikes me as a unique person or has a unique property. And I want to find out why they're doing what they're doing. What is it about somebody who lets a stranger into their house and live with them? I couldn't do that. My wife would not have it, but there's lots of people who do. And I wanted to know who these people were. So I started staying with them and filming my encounters. And next thing you know, it became a TV series that you can find on streaming media now. And I've shot over 35 episodes in 3 foreign countries, including in the UK. I actually stayed on a canal vessel in one of London's canals, and it was I hit my head about 17 times. But
so it sounds like this show is like a mix between Anthony Bourdain and that movie The Holiday, the Home Exchange. Is it?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Exactly. And it's just, I just want to know. I mean, I am dropped into these situations, and I always say that the people, I'm not the star of these episodes. I'm the straight man. My hosts are the stars. I want to find out what makes them tick, and also what goes. And then I've expanded the series to see what goes on around there. When I can, I put elements of my stand-up act in there. That's been difficult during COVID because obviously a lot of clubs were closed. But in a perfect world, would I have liked to have been on stage at a club in London as part of this episode? Yeah, I would have. I wasn't able to do that, but at least I still had somebody that welcomed me with open arms to their boat.
So Maria, do you fancy a little bit of that, going away somewhere, hanging out? I don't know.
I like my own space. I've got to that age now where I need my own space. And first thing in the morning, you don't want to see me. In fact, you don't even talk to me. I'm a grouch.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, Greg,
mm-hmm.
Do you ever combine that idea of a comedian crashing your pad with your corporate work? Do you ever crash maybe one of your corporate clients' staff's places, and then
it's very funny that you mentioned that. I'm doing a show in 2 months for the Boise, Idaho Chamber of Commerce, and I've actually been their MC. This will be my 3rd year hosting, and they said, "How would you like it if we have I know they have an auction. They have a silent auction, but they also have a public auction where they raise money." And they said, "What if we made you one of the auction items where we encourage people to bid?" And their prize would be you show up at their place the next day and they become part of the episode. And I thought that is a great idea. So I'm going to go out to Boise a few days before. I'm going to shoot some other businesses and other things that I find intriguing and funny about Boise. And then I'll do the show and we'll film that. And then, yes, somebody will bid on me. And then the next morning, knock, knock, let's finish the episode. So yeah, we are trying to do that. I mean, and I've got another one coming up. I want to, as much as I can, incorporate the groups I'm speaking for into the episodes. I'm doing one for a bunch of funeral home directors in San Antonio, Texas. Now that's going to write itself.
So busy.
That's dark. There'll be some dark humor there, I would imagine.
I can't imagine what their trade show floor is going to look like, you know?
Goodness.
So anyway, so yeah, I'm hoping to do that. And again, now that things are opening up, and I'm excited about where the series might go and the different possibilities, just because now, you know, people are they want to laugh, and they want to laugh in their environment.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
So we're going to have a link at our website at speakingbusiness.tv to your website, to gregschwem.com, but you actually have a little giveaway. I think
do.
We're going to link to as well.
Yes, exactly. So this is a book I wrote a couple of years ago. This is called The Road to Success Goes Through the Salad Bar. And some people say, where'd you come up with that title? And actually, it was one of my corporate clients. We were talking, and he was talking about needing to hire people. And he said, you know, I said, I wish I could just see everybody at a salad bar. And I said, please explain. And he said, well, if you see the decision-making process, how quick are people, and how much do they put on excess amounts of so forth, and how quick are they with money? And the more he talked about that, what a great idea. So he was talking about how he observes people and how they go through a salad bar. So anyway, so I wrote that book, and basically it's a lot of material that maybe didn't make it into my corporate act. Maybe it's a little too long and I wanted to flesh it out a little bit more, but there's all sorts of, it's everything you like to laugh about in the business world, whether that's, you know, your resume or your virtual job interview, or, you know, you say, Maria, your space, you know, your space at the hotel and so forth, and chasing airline frequent flyer points. All of that relates to business. I talk about how people do things in Japan, and I make fun of all the business tycoons that we love to hate, like Jeff Bezos and so forth. These are all chapters. So I wrote the book, and yes, so the link is, you can download absolutely free the audio version of that book that I read. Don't worry, I don't laugh at my own jokes when I'm reading it. And that's the link. So you can download that absolutely free.
Fantastic. We'll put that link at speakingbusiness.com. Now we always like to finish up the show kind of sharing some tools. So Maria, I know you've got a tool of the week, but what for you, Greg, what would be your kind of tool or tip, maybe for people when it comes to hiring a humor speaker, for example?
Well, I think when it comes to hiring a humor speaker, do your research, and don't just say, we saw this guy in a club, or our VP of marketing has a brother who's pretty funny, or our VP of marketing is pretty funny. Maybe we'll just use him. I think it's really important that you know, video is key. And I think it's also important that be willing to say, I need to see more than just 30 seconds. If you're not comfortable with 30 seconds, you're hiring a speaker for 45 minutes or 60 minutes. And I think it's important that you ask that speaker, I need to see more than just your 2-minute reel. If that's enough, my demo reel is 4.5 minutes. Hopefully that's enough, but I have more if you need to see more. And also, once you commit to hiring a humor speaker, stay committed. Okay. Don't say, everybody wants to laugh as long as you don't talk about these 87 topics. Okay. Be committed. Know that your audience wants to laugh. You thought it was a good idea. Now work with the speaker, and don't be afraid to work with the speaker. That doesn't mean write material for him or her, but don't be afraid to say, you know, where are you going with this? One of the things I do, I talk about my visual presentation. I let my clients see it beforehand, because I want them to be comfortable.
Yeah, that must de-stress them a hell of a lot.
And so a lot of speakers will not share their presentation. I want them to be comfortable. And I also want to know that I'm factually correct. Exactly. I don't want to be joking about something that does not relate to this audience. And sometimes I'll get on websites and I'll start going down a path, and next thing you know, I'm in a different division, and they'll say, okay, that's not our group. Thanks for telling me. I want to know those things.
That's great. That's a great piece of advice. Yeah. Maria, what about you? Because I know you've got a tool this week as well.
I have it, yeah, because I like apps and software and tools, and James does too. So nothing to do with humor. This is about sort of organizing your office a bit, really. My tool is called Yay. Yay! Isn't that nice? It's yay.com. It's actually a local business to me. And they offer a VoIP telephone service. So I'm going to impress you with my knowledge here. VoIP is voice over internet protocol. But what does that mean? It means rather than using your mobile phone, you can have a phone over the internet. So if you need a switchboard and you've got lots of people, or if you have a VA that you need to bring in, you can give them a VoIP number. They don't have to use their own mobile. They can dial internationally using the app at a fraction of the cost. They can make a load of phone calls for you. People can call you and be directed to whichever person it happens to be. You literally have a virtual switchboard, which I love. But it means then you don't have to give out your mobile number if you don't want to. You have a proper business number, and it can be geographical as well. And it's so inexpensive. But the other thing I love about it is if you're in your CRM or you're on Google or you happen to be somewhere, you're on LinkedIn, you've got a phone number, you just press the button and the app on your computer will dial it. I don't even have to find a keypad and put the number in, it just dials it for me. So it's just very cool. It's a great solution and very inexpensive.
Fantastic. So that's yay.
And it's called Yay. Yeah.
Yay.
I mean,
yay. So we're going to put that link along with all the links that Greg's been mentioning as well earlier on. We'll put them at speakingbusiness.tv. Just go there, give us your email address, and you'll come to all the resources for this episode, as well as all previous episodes. Some amazing kind of resources in there. So Maria, maybe I can kind of hand it back to you to thank our wonderful guest this week.
Greg, thank you absolutely so much. It's been a real pleasure. We like to talk about humour. And anybody out there, if you want to share any of your humorous stories, we would love to hear them. Get in touch with us on LinkedIn. You can get in touch with Greg on LinkedIn too. Send us your humorous stories. You never know, they might appear somewhere at an event, or we might use them in the show. Greg, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Maria. James, thank you so much. It was a great conversation, and thank you for doing your homework. And I hope to see you down the road, and keep laughing.
Super. Keep laughing, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care, everyone.